Today, we're diving into a pretty wild connection, a really strange link between a common quirk of your brain and, believe it or not, one of the most iconic music genres of all time. You know that feeling, right? You're alone, maybe the shower's running, and you swear you can hear something, a phantom voice, or maybe some faint music, just on the edge of hearing. It's kind of spooky. It's not just in your head, but it's not exactly real either. So what on earth is going on?
Well, this little ghost in the machine actually has a name. It's a real, documented phenomenon, and it tells us something really fundamental about the way our brains are wired.
It's called auditory pareidolia, and it's basically your brain's habit of hearing meaningful stuff, like speech or music, in totally random noise. Now, the key thing here is that it's a sensory illusion, not a hallucination. The sound outside your head is real. It's your brain's interpretation that's getting creative. And here's the crucial difference. For auditory pareidolia to happen, you need an actual external noise. You need that static or hum for your brain to work with. A hallucination, though, that's generated completely inside your head out of total silence. So here's the simple test. If you turn off the fan and the phantom music stops, yep, you're experiencing pareidolia.
And the triggers for this are literally all around us. They're these constant droning noises that create the perfect blank canvas for our brains to start painting on. You know, the hum of an engine, the hiss of an old tape. These sounds have so many different frequencies all mixed up that our brain just can't resist trying to organize them into something familiar.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. Why? Why does our brain even do this? Why is it so obsessed with finding a signal in the noise? Well, it turns out it's not a bug, it's a feature.
See, your brain isn't just some passive microphone, just sitting there taking in sound. Oh no. It's actively trying to predict what it's about to hear based on everything it's ever experienced. This is a whole field of study called the predictive coding framework. Basically, hearing isn't just about receiving data. It's about checking if the incoming sound matches what your brain expects.
So, when the sound coming in is messy and unclear, like the drone of a fan, the brain has to lean way more on its internal library of patterns, its priors. And what are the most practiced, most important sound patterns for a social creature like a human? You guessed it, voices and music. Our brains are just fundamentally biased to find those patterns because they're absolutely critical for how we connect with each other.
But this bias, it goes even deeper than just being social. It's actually wired into our DNA for a much more primal reason: pure survival.
Let's break this down with something called signal detection theory. Picture one of our ancient ancestors. They hear a rustle in the grass. Now, if it's a predator and they hear it, that's a hit. They survive. But if it's a predator and they just shrug it off as the wind, that's a miss, and they die. Okay, now what if it's just the wind, but they think it's a predator and run? That's a false alarm. They wasted a little energy, but they're still alive. The evolutionary math is simple. The cost of a miss, death, is infinitely worse than the cost of a false alarm.
So what this means is that evolution favored brains that were, well, a little paranoid. It's way better to make 100 false positive mistakes than one single fatal false negative one. This tendency is sometimes called the hyperactive agency detection device, or HAD. Our brains are hardwired to assume that any weird, ambiguous sound was probably caused by something or someone else.
So where does all this leave us? It means our brains are these incredible, slightly paranoid, pattern-seeking machines, literally designed by evolution to find a signal, a rhythm, a voice, a beat, smack in the middle of chaos.
And that leads to a really fascinating question. What happens when you create an entire art form that is nothing but pattern? A whole genre of music built from the ground up to satisfy that deep neurological craving for a beat? Well, you get disco.
So yeah, we're making it jump here from a little glitch in the brain to the groove on the dance floor. Because disco wasn't just music. It was like auditory engineering, perfectly designed for a pattern-seeking brain.
A lot of the disco sound actually came out of the Motown playbook. It all starts with that relentless four-on-the-floor beat, that thump, 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 thump. It's a super predictable foundation that is almost impossible for your brain to ignore. Then, on top of that, producers layered all these sophisticated melodies, huge horn sections, sweeping strings, creating this incredibly rich texture with tons of patterns for your brain to lock on.
And the complexity here was just staggering. We're talking about a single disco song being made up of to 64 separate audio tracks. This was not simple music. This was a dense, meticulously built wall of sound designed to be as compelling and immersive as humanly possible.
And of course, this incredibly detailed sound didn't just exist on a record. It sparked a massive cultural explosion that pretty much defined an entire era.
And the takeover was lightning fast. I mean, in just a handful of years, disco went from these underground clubs to complete global domination. Every one of these moments wasn't just another hit song. It was a huge cultural event that pushed the whole movement even further.
And this was no accident. The artists behind the music, guys like the legendary Nile Rodgers from Chic, were so intentional about it. They knew they were making more than just dance music. They were weaving in all these layers of meaning and musical complexity, feeding that basic human need to find patterns and significance in things.
The whole culture was just as vibrant as the music. The fashion was pure glamour and extravagance, all designed to shimmer and move under a disco ball. You had women in these flowing Halston dresses and spandex catsuits, and men rocking shiny polyester shirts and three-piece leisure suits. It was all about spectacle, about being seen.
And the dancing? It evolved right alongside the music. At first, it was very freeform, just people doing their own thing. But as the sound got more polished, so did the dances. The hustle became this worldwide craze, a super stylized, complicated, and, let's be honest, very sensual partner dance that everybody, everywhere, had to learn.
Now, a lot of people will tell you disco died at the end of the 70s. But the truth is, that relentless beat was just getting started. It never really left. It just changed its outfit.
You can literally draw a straight line. That four-on-the-floor heartbeat of disco, it became the direct foundation for house music in Chicago. And that, in turn, evolved into all the electronic dance music we have today. It's why artists in the 21st century, from Daft Punk to Madonna to Justin Timberlake, are always sampling and referencing that classic disco sound. Because it's a formula that is, quite literally, neurologically irresistible.
So the next time you're standing near a running air conditioner and you start to hear a little phantom beat, maybe it's not just a random brain quirk. Maybe it's a little reminder of our evolutionary past and our cultural present. It's that ghost in the machine just tapping its foot, waiting for the groove.